This garage is getting demolished soon, old man. Why are you still hanging on? The young official snatched the toolbox from the elderly mechanic's hands. He said nothing, just silently picked up each tool, one by one. The next morning, the entire street erupted in chaos as dozens of luxury cars, from Bentleys to Corvettes, lined up one after another outside that small, worn-down garage. Welcome to QH. Let's uncover what really happened. Leo was 72 years old, a second-generation mechanic who had run his garage for 43 years. His small corner shop with its weathered tin roof wasn't much to look at, but it had been the place where the entire town had entrusted their vehicles for decades. The walls held photographs yellowed with age, customers standing proudly next to newly repaired cars, handwritten thank you notes, and the original tools his father had used to open the shop back in 1963. The concrete floor was stained with decades of oil, each mark telling the story of a different repair, a different family helped back onto the road. One Tuesday morning, Leo received an official notice while changing spark plugs on Miss Callahan's '89 Buick, car he'd maintained since it was brand new. The city council had approved a rezoning plan. His block would become a commercial center with boutique shops and upscale restaurants. The notice gave him 7 days to vacate. There would be no relocation assistance because, according to the paperwork, his building failed to meet current structural standards. After nearly half a century, he was being dismissed with a single sheet of paper. The following day, a young official in a press suit appeared at his door. He couldn't have been more than 30, clutching a tablet and tapping impatiently as Leo carefully finished tightening a bolt. "Mr. Barker, I need your signature confirming you've received the notice," the man said, not bothering to introduce himself. Leo wiped his hands on a rag. "I'd like to speak with someone about an extension. Some of these parts orders take weeks. This old place is finished," the official interrupted, glancing around with obvious distaste. "How much longer do you think you can compete anyway? Modern cars need computers, not whatever this is." He gestured vaguely at Leo's meticulously organized workbench. When Leo hesitated to sign, the official slammed his hand on the counter, knocking over a tray of carefully arranged tools. Wrenches, sockets, and screwdrivers, some passed down from his father, clattered across the floor. Leo slowly knelt down, his arthritic knees protesting, and began collecting each piece. His weathered hands trembled slightly as he picked up a socket wrench his father had given him on his 16th birthday. Outside, pedestrians glanced in, then quickly looked away and hurried past. That evening, after everyone had gone, Leo sat alone on his wooden stool, his palm resting on the toolbox his father had left him. His eyes gazed distantly at the empty space that had been his life's work, seeing not what was there now but the memories of thousands of cars that had come through these doors and left running better than they arrived. By the next day, word had spread through the small town of Crescent Hollow. Most people just shrugged when they heard about Leo's garage. "Change is inevitable," they said. "That's progress." At the coffee shop across the street, conversations buzzed about the new development. "It'll boost property values," one real estate agent explained enthusiastically. That old garage was becoming an eyesore anyway. No one seemed to remember how Leo had stayed open during the blizzard of '96. Fixing chains and jump-starting batteries, or how he'd kept his prices the same for retired customers, even when parts costs soared. Ethan Blake, who had opened a sleek auto service center on the highway last year, stopped by with feigned sympathy. "The future is computerized diagnostics, Leo," he said, leaning against the doorframe in his spotless uniform. "You've been living on nostalgia. There aren't even many old cars left to fix these days." Leo didn't argue, he just continued methodically packing away his equipment, carefully wrapping each tool in cloth, boxing up oil filters and spare parts, as if preparing old friends for a long journey. That afternoon, an old customer, Tom Radley, came by. They'd played football together in high school, 55 years ago. "Came to see if you'd sell me your sign," Bill said awkwardly. "Thought I might hang it in my den. For memories, you know." Leo just nodded, unable to speak around the lump in his throat. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the garage floor, Leo opened an old drawer in his desk. Inside were Polaroid photographs of customers spanning generations, children who'd grown up and brought their own children in for their first oil change, families whose vehicles he'd maintained through divorces, graduations and funerals. He took a small notepad and wrote in his careful slanting script, "Thank you, I've lived a life without regrets." He taped it to the inside of the window, where only someone looking closely would notice. That night, in the small apartment above his garage, the only home he'd known since his wife passed, Leo sat on the edge of his bed. His fingers traced the worn initials his father had carved into his toolbox. "I just hope someone remembers that these hands once helped them get back on the road," he whispered to the empty room. The only reply was the distant sound of traffic and the occasional horn. People hurrying home, not sparing a thought for the old mechanic, whose time had apparently run out. I'm sorry, but I can't stay silent any longer. A craftsman, over 40 years serving an entire community, loses everything because of one official document? If you find this situation outrageously unjust, please leave a comment. The next morning, Leo arrived early to finish clearing out his belongings. The rising sun cast a golden glow in the garage that had been his life's work. He was rolling up the door one final time when he heard it, the distinctive rumble of a V8 engine, then another and another. He turned to see something impossible. A classic 1967 Corvette Stingray pulled up, its cherry red paint gleaming in the morning light. Behind it, a midnight blue Mustang GT, then a Bentley Continental, a vintage Jaguar E-Type. One after another, luxury and classic cars lined the narrow street, engines purring in a symphony of mechanical perfection. Stunned neighbors emerged from their homes, smartphones raised to capture the surreal scene. Traffic stopped completely as the procession continued, an impromptu car show appearing from nowhere. The Corvette's door opened and out stepped Brandon Ellis, now 42, CEO of a tech company in Boston. Leo recognized him immediately, the nervous teenager who had come in with a broken-down Honda on the day of his first job interview. Brandon approached Leo, then did something unexpected. He knelt down on one knee, pulling out an old photograph of himself and Leo standing beside that repaired Honda 24 years ago. "If it weren't for you, Leo," he said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent street, "I wouldn't be standing here today. You refused payment when my car broke down before my interview, said to pay you when I got my first paycheck. That job changed my life." One by one, the drivers emerged, each with their own story. Dr. Ava Singh, now a trauma surgeon, approached with a framed document. "You fixed my tire for free the night before my medical school entrance exam. I made it on time because of you. I've saved lives because you saved me that day." Elijah Ford, who had become a respected judge, stood tall in his suit. "We're not here to talk about what we owe you, Lee. We're here to preserve the character of a neighborhood." The crowd swelled as residents gathered, many live streaming the event. Social media exploded with the hashtag Leo's Garage trending locally, then regionally. The young official who had knocked over Leo's tools arrived, clipboard in hand. He froze at the edge of the crowd, mouth slightly open, as no one paid him any attention. Finally, a silver-haired man in an impeccable suit stepped forward from a black Mercedes. Harold Easton, now the director of the Department of Transportation, whom Leo had once taught to change his own oil when he was a broke college student. "Leo Barker," he announced formally, "it is my honor to present you with this certificate of recognition for outstanding service." He handed Leo an official-looking document with the city seal. "You are hereby recognized as the guardian of craftsmen's ethics in our community." He lowered his voice. "And there might be a rezoning amendment being discussed at tomorrow's emergency council meeting." The crowd erupted in cheers as Leo stood speechless, the morning sun reflecting off tears in his eyes, and the gleaming cars that surrounded his humble garage. Leo didn't say much. He simply sat down on the garage steps, polishing one last wrench with the same care he'd always shown his tool. A young boy pushed through the crowd, holding a broken toy car. "Can you fix this for me, sir?" he asked shyly. Leo smiled and nodded. "If you believe I can, then I still can." The community rallied together in the following week. Though Leo's garage would eventually close, on his terms not the city's, a bronze plaque was installed on the corner. Leo's Garage, no longer open, but never forgotten. The city council established an annual scholarship in Leo's name for students pursuing vocational education. Local schools began inviting skilled craftspeople to speak about the dignity of working with one's hand. And perhaps most importantly, people began looking a little differently at the other small businesses in their town, the bakery, the tailor, the shoe repair shop, wondering what stories might be hidden behind those storefronts. As Leo stood among the roaring engines and heartfelt memories, he realized he hadn't just repaired cars, he had restored faith, not in machinery, but in humanity. His legacy wasn't written in oil stains or tire tracks, but in the lives he helped move forward. And sometimes that's more than any city permit could ever grant. Some people don't need their contributions acknowledged, they only need to live according to their principles. They may not keep their land, but they secure a place in people's heart. You might forget this story in a few days, but if nobody retells it, history will remain silent forever. Subscribe to Incredible Stories, where justice, kindness, and memory are protected until the day we meet again.